Guys, if Pirates looks at you and says, you are our star, man, if you want to try sign that player, you're going to have to pay the prettiest of pennies. It's pricey. These are training games. SABC holds the broadcast rights for the Hollywood Bet Super League. There should be top 10 goals of the week playing in the middle of Skim Sam. Well, Flavio Silva, I watched him on YouTube. Hey, his YouTube highlights are incredible. Well, let's bring you back down, my guy. Let's bring you back down here. Why should I watch you? Why am I coming to consume your content, your league, your whatever? Why? What are you bringing to me? Once I am one of those key tekomudise, those players that are keystone players, why would I leave? Whoever invests in women's football right now, I believe, is going to reap massive rewards in the future. Welcome everybody to the George Mokoena podcast. My name is George Mokoena. I am your host, and this of course is a place where we have some really uncomfortable, deep, juicy conversations about this here football that we love. Remember, I am not always right. I'm not here to be the right person all the time. My job is to put it on the table so that you guys can jump into the comments and tell me what you think, but then also take some of these conversations we're having out into the world. Go into the WhatsApp groups, go into your friend groups, have these conversations so that we can start interrogating what we think about our football, but then also hopefully let it grow. That is what this platform is here for. So please comment, like, share, and subscribe, and do all of those really nice things. Now, I want to talk about three things. NKOTA has left Orlando Pirates, but I want to speak about the levels of different players in the Orlando Pirates and where they fit and how they are dealt with. When I say dealt with, you know I'm talking about. Saleng is one of the people. Number two, I want to speak about the preseason. Very big. We've been watching our two Soweto Giants going out into Europe and playing, and there's been some mixed bag of results. Let's speak about how we feel about the whole preseason concept. And then number three, WAFCON is on right now, and there's things I'm hearing about women's football that I don't agree with. And I think that we are high-horsing men's football without realizing that we've got the same problems, especially in SA. But let's get straight into it. Okay, so NKOTA has made his move to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia signing for Al Ettifaq, that side. And I think it's a great deal. I want to start there. It's great to see one of our younger players leaving. I don't know if Saudi Arabia is the best place to go, especially for a player that's maybe trying to make his way into the big leagues. But I mean, if the money's right, you can't necessarily say too much. So I want to start there. But what's interesting about the NKOTA conversation is that it happens on the backdrop of two things. Number one, you've got Saleng, who's been taken back to Orbit College, who is essentially being punished. He's going back into Orbit College, the place where he started on loan from Orlando Pirates. And then you've got MOFOKENG, a player that maybe we all thought was going to leave right now. Now, it's still early. He probably can leave. But I want to speak about the levels of what happens in the team depending on who you are. Because for me, NKOTA falls into the box of your Lyle Fosters, your Marshall Munetsis, those players that came to Orlando Pirates young, put up their hands, and left a little bit early. You cannot deny that NKOTA had an incredible season last season. You know, you think about the goals that he scored versus CR Peluizdad. You think about the contributions he made to Orlando Pirates getting to a semi-final in the CAF Champions League, winning that MTN 8, like coming in and really stamping his authority as one of the kids that were brought in by Jose Rivero. If memory serves me right, NKOTA came into the DDC right before MOFOKENG, if I'm not mistaken. But he gets to leave. And the plus of him getting to leave is similar to Lyle Foster. I think it's hard to find your feet outside of Pirates. It's hard to find your feet, especially when you've been playing for the Giants. I've often said that the two Soweto Giants create local superstars. And if you want to leave Orlando Pirates, it's either you leave early or you leave with controversies. When you think about your Charlies, you think about your Vilagazis, you think about a lot of the players that were stalwarts for Pirates. And when teams came knocking, doors weren't open. And when they finally were, I think the talent levels, the what you can gain from the player was no longer as high, right? It was no longer as high. So NKOTA is following the road of your Lal Fosters, where maybe he goes to Saudi Arabia and does well. Maybe from Saudi Arabia he can make his way into Europe, right? I speak about time because time is a very important thing in the Orlando Pirates, especially with the stars. Now, I view NKOTA as a star. He's a good player, right? But then there's another man there whose name is MOFOKENG. And MOFOKENG has now blossomed into what we are regarding as the face of the league, the face of South African football. He's got endorsement deals, President Emma 2000, he's got foundations that he's kicking off, he's doing all of those things. And what's interesting is that once you start doing that at a Pirates, at a Kaizer Chiefs, it becomes harder to leave. It becomes harder to leave. On the player side, guys, money is coming in like never before. On the player side, the love is coming in like never before. On the player side, you can feel that you are very important to the fabric of South African football. Not just for the club. We are all looking at MOFOKENG as the brightest shining light for the future of South African football. So the question is, once I am MOFOKENG, once I am a Lodge, once I am a Dr. Kumalo, Doctor even came back. Once I am a Dr. Kumalo, once I am one of those key Tekomudise, those players that are keystone players, why would I leave? Because one of the biggest things that we forget is once you feel that love, you're not going to get that love overseas. You're not going to feel it in the same way. I've spoken to players. I did an interview with Josta Dladla. It's on the channel. I did an interview with Josta Dladla where he spoke about being a foreigner. You're a foreigner. It's a place you don't know. It's a language you don't understand. It's a people and a culture that maybe doesn't ring true to you. And when you think back to South Africa, MOFOKENG gets to go home and see his parents daily. He gets to go to places. One of the things that Josta spoke about was Joburg and Pretoria are not very far from each other. You can go here, you can go there. He gets to go to stadiums where they're full, well, not full, but stadiums where he's adored, he's loved. He gets to live a life of being adored and loved and being a king. Once you go that side, you're not a king anymore. So does it behoove the player to want to do that? But then on the Pirate side, it also makes sense. Because you go, you know what, guys? Pirates is a very big brand. Pirates is a very big company. Pirates is a very big team. Pirates is a cornerstone team of the PSL. If you manage to cultivate a Lodge, if you manage to cultivate a Vincent Pule, that's how you become relatable to the crowd. We speak about marketing. I put your face on top of the thing. Abo Lodge. There's a reason why every poster had Lodge and Vincent Pule and those guys. Lodge have songs and all of that type of thing. Would you as Pirates want to let go of that type of player that can earn you a lot of money internally at Pirates? A player that can do a lot branding wise, not to mention the play. One of the more brightest stars that we have in the country. Do you just let him go? And a lot has been said about offers from Israel, offers from all over the place. Guys, if Pirates looks at you and says, you are our star, man, if you want to try sign that player, you're going to have to pay the prettiest of pennies. You're going to have to pay the amount of money that will make it worth it. And maybe that's what's holding teams back from signing MOFOKENG, which again, I don't blame Pirates for doing. I think Pirates is well within the rights and should be doing those things because we complain a lot about losing our best players. Now, my challenge to Orlando Pirates is to say, if you're going to keep MOFOKENG in the ranks, for example, if you're going to deny him the ability to follow NKOTA, who's going to be playing with some really good players over in Saudi, very young, what are you doing to help him out? And to Pirates' credit, they're taking the league seriously. I believe. You see it with the signings, Apolis. You see the different Abombule, how they're building out that team. Abonduli and those type of players. Are they building out that team to be a contender? You see them taking the CAF Champions League very seriously. Getting to the semi-final is no joke. And now that you've seen that you're capable of doing it, you want to go do it again. But the flip side is also very important, and it's a very important conversation. The flip side says, the longer you stay, one, the less opportunities you get outside. You think about all of our local superstars. Abo Tembazwan. You think about Abo Yeye, Abo Shabalala. By the time the reins were loosened a little bit and it was time for them to go overseas, it never happened. Or it was to smaller teams. No disrespect to the teams out there. You look at Abo Teko Modise, who never got the chance to go overseas. And they were watching Abu Khashwe. Abu Khashwe playing in England. Crystal Palace, Fulham. And they never got a chance to take advantage of their primes. Imagine discovering Themba Zwane after this Club World Cup and letting him go. So it's not just the Pirates, the Chiefs, the Sun. We tend to hold on to those players that we deem to be important to our branding, to South African football. Again, it's not a bad thing. But Urile is right there. It's right on the border. Right on the border of jumping over and becoming the Lodge, or leaving and possibly becoming something bigger. Who knows what's going to happen to Chandra Campbell? Once you've crossed the line, NKOTA, who knows what's going to happen to them at their talent levels? I was a great player, I'm a superstar, but I don't leave. For example, the further away you get away from that line, so is it a disservice? The harder it is to leave. Once you've crossed the line between I was a great player, I'm a superstar, but I don't leave. The further away you get away from that line, the harder it is to leave. I know Saleng is a bad example in this case, but you look at a Saleng, star player, the guy. Everybody was looking at him. Gets harder to leave. It's harder to step out. Now Abu Al-Ahly allegedly are calling you and you're seeing figures that you've never seen in your life. But you're so important to the club that you have right now. We can't let you go. Or they're going to have to pay a lot of money. He's on strike. Chiki Chiki is at orbit. And maybe you should just... I want to digress just a little bit. I don't believe in this thing of teams punishing players. I'm not saying that this is a punishment. Seems like it. But I don't like this thing of punitive action taken on players instead of just letting them go. And I think Pirates with Saleng painted itself into a corner. I'm punishing you for a transfer or an alleged transfer, or your people allegedly going behind the scenes talking to other people. But that means I can't transfer you out. Can I now go, okay, Al-Ahly, take him? And what do those teams say and do when they look at Pirates now and they're putting in offers? Yeah, we know you don't like him. We know you're going through some shaky waters right now. We know that something is happening. Why would I offer more? Arsenal goes through this a lot. You're trying to sell a player that you've been calling trash. Now people are not fitting the bill. What happens now? And I think they shot themselves in the foot a little bit there. The loan is always a good thing because you don't want that type of player inside your team. A grumpy and happy player. Think about your Ozils, your Obas, your Lacazette at the time. There was a time where it was just bad, toxic. Think about your Luis Suarez's at Liverpool. Liverpool learned the other way. They were like, "Aye, fam, we can keep you and train with under 21s, but you're still around. There's still going to be questions. There's still going to be all of that stuff. We need to let you go." So kudos to Pirates, I guess, for moving him on. But I'm like, why ruin a player's career? If he no longer wants to play for Pirates, let him go. Cash out and let him go. You've got a 2-year option. Make the money back. But in any case, back to the story. It's always sad when they leave. Lodge left through controversy. You look at Cheese Boy when he tells the story about how he had a falling out with the coach and he left because of that. You look at Abo Vilagazi, who have had protracted fights in the back before he left. That is where it becomes a little bit tough. Where do you go as a South African superstar? And can the league develop you properly? Can the league and your team make sure that, fine, you're not going overseas, but you're not missing out on any of those growth opportunities? NKOTA, whether we like it or not, is going to go over that side, and it's going to have world-class teammates, former players from Europe, and it's going to have all of that. I think Al Ettifaq was the team that had signed Steven Gerrard to coach at one point. I know he's no longer there, but I'm just trying to show you the type of people that NKOTA is going to be exposed to. And in future, do we not look back on this and go, yeah, NKOTA, he might be outpacing. I look at Abongezan. I think he won 2 trophies again this season in Romania. He was playing Europa League games. You're seeing Campbell playing Europa games and Conference League games. Can that same growth be given to MOFOKENG? Or will the comfort not kill the player, but will the comfort of being here rob the player of being everything he could have been? Are we looking at the genesis of a new Tembazwan? Now, there's still a long window to go. An offer could come in. Things could change immediately, very quickly. So I don't want to nail myself down to he's not leaving. But it's very interesting. I would love him to leave. Just so he can test himself in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in different leagues where he could grow into what he needs to. Because I don't think he's ready to go directly into a top 5 league team. You know? A top 5 league team. I don't think he's ready for that. Anyway, let's talk about preseason, because the whole team is in Europe, along with Kaizer Chiefs. So Orlando Pirates, of course, are in Spain, and then Kaizer Chiefs are in the Netherlands. Now, this is very interesting because, guys, let's be honest, this is preseason. It's preseason. These are training games. These are games to get you ready to go and play in the league. Now, I do understand we've got maybe a couple of weeks before the league kicks off. So you are watching with a little bit of a keener eye, but let's be honest about it, guys. It's players who have just signed. Chislet Shinga, Marco Munyane, Flavio Silva, Ngali. We've got Apolis Abombule, Abonduli. We've got all of these new players that are coming into the team. So obviously, we're watching the chef cook in the background. We're watching the chef putting together the food. And we're critiquing the chef putting together the food. And that brings about a couple of questions. Number one, is preseason worth it? Does preseason make sense? And I mean it from this sense. You're going over to go play teams from the Netherlands. You're going over to go play teams from Spain and wherever else. I know Pafos is from the Cypriot League. Those teams are teams that people will say, no, they are better. You're going to go face better so that you come back good. But my issue is that maybe when you go out to those teams, you are playing teams that have a different challenge than what you're going to face at home. You see, like higher, you're going to face low blocks. Like higher, you're going to face a lot of mental things in the case of Pirates, where you have to get over yourself in order to win this game and go and win the league. You're going to see a vastly different playing style. You know, one of my biggest takeaways from this preseason, just sidebar, one of the biggest takeaways I've seen from this preseason is the difference between our players and Europe. Our players, in the case of Pirates, they look great. They're circulating the ball. By 10 midfield. Pass. But where we're getting killed is that those other teams may not look as good, but they've got the basics. You know, I was watching Chiefs, and it got me thinking. We play a lot of hero football in South Africa. Fundo Vilakazi gets the ball. he has to beat 2 players in order to go and do the thing that we need him to do. You think about the goal that was scored by Olilepo when he was running from the left-hand side. I forget where we were playing against. But you see that type of goal. We see that type of play a lot. And it got me thinking that do we create role players too? So I know you've got the star, but are there players around him that can play a wall pass when they need to? Are there players around him that are going to push up? If you watch those European and teams from around the world, the star player is usually followed by people. Hey, okay, star player uga left. Sometimes I just need to play the 1-2 with him. Okay, star player uga left. I need to make a dummy run. It's actually what makes MOFOKENG super great, is to have Hoto, is to have Obotito around. But anyway, are we creating enough role players that understand that I may not need to be the star, but I need to follow the star? Because when you watch them play, you see the star player is not even thinking about the pass because it's not expected of them. They're not even, they want to go and take on 3 players 1v1. You look at the supporting players, they're sitting back and folding their hands like, whoo, hey, simnigezi Paula, let him go and let's see what he's gonna do. Yeah, he knows, man. He's gonna give us something. Whereas when you watch these European teams, look at how they play. When they're playing out from the back, he beats his man, he plays it centrally, he plays it wide, he plays it back in. Then that allows a third run to be played where they can play a ball through. Like, you see how systematic they are. And that is what I've seen from this preseason that for me has been a little bit, is missing from our game, is missing from the South African game, is missing from South African players. It's boring, it's basic. But both Chiefs are getting beaten 4-0. Having the possession, the play, they're rotating back. It looks exciting. Like if you close the score off and you take away the goals and you just watch a 10-minute, you think that Chiefs is one of the best teams in the world, whereas the ball is not necessarily progressing anywhere. You look at Pirates, for all of the turning and the fancy pass from Apolis and the goal from Rile, a direct transition goal is how they lost. The basics. And we lose these basics at different levels, man. Sundowns lost the basics because they couldn't capitalize on a Dortmund team, for example, that they were all over. You look at a Pirates that tried to go toe-to-toe with Pyramids in the Champions League. You look at a Chiefs that, well, I can't say too much, but Bonage, the basics, the small things. What happens when your talent is not enough? What happens when your circulation is not enough? Can you now go, okay, guys, from here to here to here to here to here to here to goal? But now we need to take it from here to here to here to here to here because you can't be trusted to do that on your own. But back to the preseason. That was just a little takeaway. But back to the preseason. What's interesting is the televising of these games. And the televising also brings a lot of questions. For example, these players, is it not demoralizing right now to feel the wrath of 400,000 South Africans that are watching it on YouTube? To the point where admin has to switch off the comments and then you've got a flood of things. I'm hearing people speaking about Flavio Silva and they're saying that, is this an improvement? Is this a good player? Is this a person who's going to improve this team? You get to watch people and you watch the games and you go, wow, Chiefs is doing similar to what they were doing last season, which, to be fair, is to be expected at this point of preseason. Should we be watching the chef preparing the food? Because sometimes awazi ukuthi uchef ufakeni. Uyadla plate la figure, you eat homonati, dijo di monati, everything tastes great, but you don't know what happened. But if you were to go into the back and see, you know, when they take the seafood items, the lobsters and whatever, and they put it into a bowl and it's boiling and it's dying and you hear it scream. You might not want to eat that thing. But my figure with the butter and what, you eat it. You know, some people don't eat tripe. Mkhodu. Because they saw it getting cleaned and whatever and they got weirded out. Is that not a situation we're creating? Because on the negative side, these players are getting bombarded right now. You've just arrived. You are getting used to the country, the team, the coach, the tactics, your teammates, and you have to deal with the fan pressure. And this will be a massive test of character. But could it be a good thing on the flip side? That rather get it out of the way now. Rather, if you had any preconceived notions of what it was going to be, now you get to see it and you get to orientate yourself before the pressure of the league is also added on top. So it could be a good thing. But televising it was so interesting because, like I said at the beginning, it's preseason. We're going to watch some of the worst football. And outside of those outstanding issues, like the ones I brought up about the role players and the structure and the way that they play, let's be honest, what are you expecting from a preseason? But on the same token, we're 2 weeks away from the league starting. On the same token, Pirates is about to play the MTN 8. That is the first week of August, if not the 1st of August. Are they on the road? Are they where they need to be? You look at Chiefs, they're going to come into the league, obviously having to do a lot. They're going to be playing CAF Confed as well. Should we be looking for more at this time? Should we be expecting more? See, with Pirates, you can still tell that it's still Pirates. You're fine with it. With Chiefs, I wonder, because I'm like, you guys are still doing the same things over and over and over again. You're still playing without a structure. You're still playing without a push, a plan. Should we be seeing that? Or does it also help us fans watching the preseason? Do these preseason games help to temper your expectations? Is that maybe sometimes why you do it? To say, well, you won the Nedbank, you thought you were here. But relax, gents. Let's come down here at the beginning of the season. Well, Flavio Silva, I watched him on YouTube. Hey, his YouTube highlights are incredible. Well, let's bring you back down, my guy. Let's bring you back down here so that we don't have high expectations. Maybe that's what this is also doing, just from a different perspective. But the truth is that it's preseason. Okay, guys, so the Women's African Cup of Nations is on right now. And it's led me to have a couple of interesting conversations on my own live show, but then also on 3-Man Press. Please follow 3-Man Press, myself, Lindo Pep, and Football Telefang. We come together and we have some really dope discussions around football. Incredible, incredible, incredible. I promise you, it's like something you've never seen. But in any case, we were watching the WAFCON and we're having a tough conversation about the commercialization of women's football and what needs to be done for people to care about women's football. And there's some parallels with our league. There's some parallels with our national teams. Where I go, the same problems that Banyana have are pretty much the same problems that Bafana have. The same problems that women's football has at the bottom, women's football has at the Hollywood Bets level, at the semi-pro level where they are very similar to what's happening with our PSL teams. And I think the conversation gets skewed because we think about Chiefs, Pirates, and Sundowns, and we put that for the whole league. Let me explain. Marketing is the repeating of a message up to a point where your audience understands the message. The EPL tells you that they're the best league in the world over and over and over and over again, up to a point where you believe it. Where Jamie Carragher can come out and say, AFCON is not at the level of what, and we believe it. But the truth of the matter is that you don't watch all of the games that the English Premiership has to offer. I think it's 380 games. You don't watch all 380 games, for example. So you are basing everything you have off of a City, an Arsenal, a Liverpool, a Chelsea, a Manchester United. And that is what you're basing everything on. And then what they do is that they've bombarded you with the highlights that these things are incredible. These things are incredible. Look at the top 10 goals, top 100 goals. Look at this, look at that, look at that. The message keeps getting repeated. And what we've convinced ourselves about is that it's about the level of the football, or it's about the watchability of the football, or it's about winning. Which is odd, because now you sit with a Bafana Bafana that is third at the AFCON. You sit with a Banyana Banyana that won a WAFCON. You sit with a Banyana Banyana that went to a World Cup and got to a knockout stage. How many South African teams have done that? In general. You can even generalize across the sports. How many South African teams have done that? Rugby aside. Cricket just got to their final now. And the context of which they're doing it. I mean, rugby has a handful of the teams in the world that are really big. We just so happen to be number one because of a long history of rugby in South Africa. But in any case, Banyana does that. And where is the imaginary PR that falls out of the sky, where everybody starts to love them and do all of that stuff? Guys, these things are not by mistake. These narratives are not by mistake. It's not a mistake that you can access English Premiership content easier than you can access Premier Soccer League content. One of the big things that Patrice Motsepe did, for example, was to take AFCON and say, by virtue of it being on your TV now, you don't have to go and buy expensive what and do it. You're going to make sure that free to air, it's on TV. By virtue of it being there, you start consuming a little bit more of it, and a little bit more of it, and a little bit more of it. Look at what happened to the viewership numbers of the AFCON. The viability of the next AFCON. How much money can be generated by commercialization. But then you find a Bafana Bafana, a Banyana Banyana, a Hollywood Best Super League, a PSL, where outside of the matches you watch on TO2, what messaging are you getting? What is being communicated to you about the thing? Guys, FIFA made Banyana Banyana trend at the Women's World Cup off of Igwijo. They played that Gwijo ya Andile Dlamini to death because they understood, again, message. Now they can look at their partners and look at how well that African team did. We can spin a storyline about how these guys do so well. Your marketability, your financial viability. For me, marketing, very little to do with what the football is. Half of the people you're speaking to are not consuming enough of that football. Most of us here don't watch French League One. You don't watch the bottom two La Liga teams playing against each other. But the package has been that La Liga is like this. It'll be like saying Sundowns, because Sundowns is doing so well and they went to the Club World Cup, the PSL as a whole is incredible. You and I know that it may not be at that level, but they don't need to know. They know that their leagues are not that exciting, but you don't need to know that. And that is where we're missing opportunities. I spoke about the Hollywood Bet Super League. Guys, the Hollywood Super League, the deal that they have for broadcast is with SABC. SABC holds the broadcast rights for the Hollywood Bet Super League. There should be top 10 goals of the week playing in the middle of Skim Sam. There should be player profiles playing in the middle of the news. They should be selling the product and telling you how to feel about the thing. The story I always tell. I am an SABC child. We didn't have DStv when I was growing up. All I know about Thierry Henry is the goals that I saw on highlights on TV sometimes, or maybe those discs that used to come, the Heineken disc that used to come with 442 where you could watch the highlights. I fell in love with Henry. Then I was like, oh, what does he play for? And now I'm an Arsenal fan. I consume Arsenal deeply years after Henry left. How many times have you seen Portia Mudise's goals? Because she's got bangers. And when people say, oh, women's football is so slow, show them some of those goals over and over and over again where they go, Jesus, what is this? Thembi Kgatlana is incredible. Show them. These are the goals. These are the things. This is why she's such an amazing player. Not even the full thing. We just spoke about the YouTube highlights of Flavio Silva. And I'd love to say that this is just a Hollywood Bets thing. But let's go to men's football. When last did you see the 4 penalty saves that Ronwen made? When last? When last did you see Banyana Banyana lifting that trophy? When last? Now let me ask you again. I know people hate it when I do this. How many times have you seen Siya Kolisi? Just think about it. How many times have you seen Siya Kolisi? Before every PSL game, before all of that. And I'm not trying to compare to rugby like that, but I want to compare the marketing efforts to rugby. How many times have you heard Hugo Bruce speak? Because I've heard Rassi Rasma speak a lot. I don't even have SS1. But somehow, man, Nyamuzo, and he's talking about, I called the ref. I remember there was a scene. I called the ref because I asked him, can we do this from a kickoff? And when they position him as a genius. Where's the positioning for Hugo Bruce? Mamelodi Sundowns has won the league 8 times in a row. Can you remember seeing them lifting the trophy? How many times have you seen it be reinforced that this is one of the greatest teams we've seen in South African football history? How many times? When it's CAF Champions League time, can you watch Ahly and Wydad randomly? These are all parts of the puzzle that we do not take seriously and is done to us. Go onto channel 203 right now. I guarantee you there's a legend speaking. They're going through old goals. They're breaking down tactics. They're doing all of these things to remind you again that no, Ryan Giggs is a great Manchester United player. For Manchester United fans who don't have a grip of what's happening, I'll show you, I'll remind you what the greatest look like. Even if you don't know it, I'll show you the greatness right now. Look at how much Chelsea is going to be marketed now. Yet you can't remember 10 goals. Collins Besum. If you're selling a product, wouldn't you want to bring those things in? You can't be reminded or taught that Banyana Banyana are winners because you only interact with Banyana Banyana when they are playing the game live. Immediately before, right after. Nobody's telling you the narratives that are going to make. Guys, Banyana ba style. 2-time Women's CAF Champions League champions. I don't know how many times they've won the league, back to back to back. Abo Rabale, Abo Twalagele, Abo Murifi, Abo Ramalepe. We should be looking at them like the biggest of stars, man. Consistently reminded of what they do, what they've done. Abo Andile Dlamini, what they do, what they've done. So that we can also change the messaging in our heads. But it doesn't happen by happenstance, by chance. You teach people how to love. Here's an example. Can any of you explain to me what the 7-1 split in rugby is? that Rassie came with. I saw from the last game they're doing lineouts mid-game in order to force rucks and what. Can you explain that to me? You don't have to. You just have to know that the Springboks are incredible. Rassie's a genius. They're changing rugby. World rugby's got to be. These are all narratives. You don't have to understand rugby. You didn't have to watch the game in order for you to understand that messaging. And the messaging is what is being repeatedly put out. Then we had a very interesting conversation about women's football and faces. You know, in the beginning of this, we spoke about how MOFOKENG is the face of Orlando Pirates. We spoke about how MOFOKENG is being positioned as the face of South African football. He's on the billboards now, he's on adverts, he's showing up all over the place. Because they're putting a face to the football. A relatable guy that might push you to go to Bafana Bafana and watch Bafana Bafana games, might push you to go to Orlando Pirates games. It's the same reason why you see Thembinkosi Lorch was a big thing, Vincent Pule was a big thing, Dr. Khumalo was a big thing, Cristiano Ronaldo is a big thing, Messi is being pushed as the face of things. Who is the face of Banyana Banyan? Who's the face of the league? Can you prove to me? I spoke about Sia Kolisi. Sia is the face of rugby. Do you hear anybody else speak? Do you hear anybody else platform? They put his story there. They put him there. He understands the PR. He understands all that stuff. All of that makes a relatable thing. The black guy who's captaining the Springboks. He represents the end of the quota system. On merit he's there. He represents, hey, Koka, see these kids who have done such incredible things. Started in the Kasi, have done incredible things. Inspirational to one sector. You have another one that goes to white people, and I'm going to be frank about it. They go, hey, Usia represents the end of racism. Look, there's a black guy. All of those messages have been packaged into one guy that brings us all to come watch the Springboks. Why don't we have that for Banyana Banyan? Bafana Bafana, a lot of our leagues. Who's the faces? And this, again, what I was illustrating with that point is that that's 3 different markets that Sia has touched that are going to now want to invest in the Springboks. What are the stories we're telling? Isn't it a compelling story to say, I came from a Sasol regional league? You know how many girls, young girls are playing in that? Now they've got someone. I went to the Hollywood Bet Super League, the top part, while having a job. Kaylin Swart has a job. She has to take leave to play these games. Uchimaka 6. Because she has to go into a full-time job. Anyway, now you've got a bunch of people who maybe understand the craft of wanting to do your dreams while also balancing a corporate career because you have to put food on the table. You've got women, Borabale, Botolagele, my fave, who are now playing WAFCON, who are now playing Women's Champions League. The dream of being able to go there, and now you can even position them as a team that comes from South Africa. How many more Patriots could you put on? Then you've got a Banyana that's going to the World Cup and beating Europeans. Surely you could sell that to the guys who enjoy the Springboks beating Ireland and whatever. Imagine, Springboks beat Argentina. What was it, the Tri-Nations back in the day? Banyana did the same thing. Surely Kobas, man, Kobas. Shapila Argentina, Antoine. Know who you're marketing to. Because the grander thing that I always speak about with African football, more specifically, is why should I watch you? Why should I watch you? Why am I coming to consume your content, your league, your whatever? Why? What are you bringing to me? I just showed you how you can bring in a whole different demographic. The rugby guys right now host concerts after rugby matches. You buy a ticket, you get your whatever, you watch the game, then you go and watch They're bringing in an entire new market that might not give a damn about rugby right now. But I bet you in 5 years' time, who are the top fans going to be? Those kids that are going there right now, because they're going there week in, week out, week in, week out, week in, week out. You can't help but then start watching the thing, man. We had a conversation about faces, like to go back to the convo about faces. And I'm like, you see that Donnelly is very popular. Make her the face. Doesn't mean she has to wear lingerie and all of those things, but put her in a banana shirt, put her as the front and center person. Similar to what they do. You think Saudi Arabia signed Cristiano just because Cristiano food? No, he's everywhere. Every post, every billboard, every whatever, because he's marketable. We are genuinely not doing enough, and we're hiding behind all of these different things. No, the football is poor. When you watch the football, it's not poor anymore. This is not women's football from 20 years ago. And certainly is not as bad as what we sometimes are subjected to with our men's leagues. Let's be honest. Oh no, they need to go and win. Okay, Banyana won. Now what? No, but they need, they've won the WEF. They need to do well at the World Cup. Oh, okay, they did well at the World Cup. Now what? No, they need to show that they win. Hey, Banna. Guys, they've stared down Argentina. They've stared down Italy. They beat Italy. They stared down Sweden. They went to England. And if not for the button, completely different thing. I'll explain what the button is in a different video. But if not for that, they outplayed England all over. Well, Lucy Bronze. Guys, Lucy Bronze and those guys are playing in a league, the WSL, that now has doubled their TV revenue. They're making profits. They're selling out stadiums. So it's not a skill or talent thing. What could it be? Bafana need to go win. Well, they're winning now. They're on an unbeaten streak. Really? I don't even know. Oh, Banyana's playing tonight. Oh, really? I didn't know. Bafana's playing. Oh, wow, really? To their credit, they did very well to take that team to the Free State, for example, because they were leveraging not having football there. Let's bring a team that's winning there. Let's put that spin around them. City MOFOKENG, City Boss Banban. That's what you do. But it can't be once off. Guys, whoever invests in women's football right now, I believe, is going to reap massive rewards in the future. Chelsea just sold their team back to themselves in order to qualify for PSR or not to be hit profit and sustainability. No one would have thought that when it started out. And hopefully what Chiefs who are getting into these deals with our home sweepers, I hope it's not just the CAF confet thing because of the rules. I hope that it's a real thing that they're looking into, because I believe if Thembi Kgatlana can be the most expensive transfer out of the NWSL for a foreigner when she left to go to Mexico, imagine if you could siphon that money back here and say that transfer happened from UWC. That transfer happened from Copper Belt Ladies. That transfer happened from Mamelodi Sundowns. Because clearly we're creating world-class players in a semi-pro league. Imagine once it's pro, how much money you could probably make. But in any case, that's everything I wanted to speak about, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Mokoena. I'm your host. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments, and let's have a conversation about this. This is a place where we need to have bigger conversations, and I am here for it. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Also, subscribe to my other platforms, 3-Man Press. I've got the Banter League on the Podcast and Chill channel. So please, support the TikToks, the Instagrams, all of that stuff. It really does help us as content creators. And if you can contribute, there's an account number in the description that you can contribute to. I will always endeavor to get better. I fixed my laptop. I've upgraded sound a little bit so that it's not khashing all the time. There's plenty of things I want to do to grow this platform, and it helps when you guys also contribute. And I'd like to thank everybody that's contributed up to this point. You see, I'm not chowing the money. It's things that I'm doing. Guys, I'll see you on the next one.